Hi, I'm Tommy, and behind me is my KTM Freeride. In my last video, I dug into why it wouldn't start, and what I ended up finding was that it dropped the piston ring and gouged the cylinder wall. So I've ordered a bunch of parts, and I'm ready to start putting it back together. So the parts I have are a new cylinder, a new piston, comes with rings, a new cylinder gasket, and the head O-rings. I got an exhaust flange gasket and the cylinder pin, the clips that hold that pin in, and the cylinder pin bearing, where it goes in the connecting rod. One of the things I found interesting is when you compare the new ring to the old ring measures 1.53 millimeters, and the new ring measures 2.36. Where this difference in ring thickness comes into play, and where you can really notice it, is when you put the ring inside the cylinder to check the ring gap. The service manual wants you to have a 0.4 millimeter gap at the end of the ring, and as you can see here, the old ring has a much more substantial ring gap. When you mount the rings on the piston, it's important to note the marker, the little N, that tells you which face goes up toward the top of the head. This is important because the ring is actually kind of dish-shaped. The exhaust side of the piston is indicated with an arrow. So that is facing forward in this bike. At the back of the piston, you'll see the little pins that hold the ring gaps in a particular spot. If you try to pass the ring beyond that pin, you feel it catch. That's where you want your ring gaps when you put the piston into the cylinder. You want to use plenty of oil on your parts when you're assembling. I just put some oil into this baggie because there's a few parts that will fit in here and be assembled on the bike. Side. Go ahead and grease up the piston pin. Not grease, oil. Let that hang out in there for a minute. So here we have our piston with the rings. You can put one of these in here if you want, in advance. You want to put it in here this way, or even that way if you want to. They just don't want it forward or back. That actually feels pretty good. Good. Leftover oil here. Down there, get that down there. Working our way up to 35 Newton meters.
These bolts tighten to 27 Newton meters. We're going to go around at about 20 Newton meters first, right about there. In a crisscross pattern. And then we'll go up to 27. Which this thing's about impossible to read. That looks like 27. And we'll swap out the spark plug since we're in here. We'll hook up the coolant hose. Now we need some coolant. Now we'll put in the engine upper mount crossbar. All right, before I start it, I do want to change the oil. I'm going to change the oil now, and then I'm going to let it run its break-in, which is 3 15-minute idling sessions. And after break-in, I'm going to change the oil one more time, just in case there's anything floating around, like grindings from that ring that let go. All right. This goes on this bolt, of course. I did drain out the fuel that was in there because I wanted to up the mixture from 80 to 1 to 60 to 1. I think we can put the exhaust on and fire this thing up. All right, let's see if this guy wants to start up. Fuel on.